I don't know about that, Mike, but I appreciate the compliment.
Well, obviously, today that Celtics news, I think, is coming out of right field. Any shot in hell the Sixers would even consider that deal of Marcus Smart, 16-28 for Nerlens Noel in 3?
My 12-year-old daughter, who knows nothing about NBA basketball, wouldn't make that move. So, no. Where's the value in that? Where is the value in that? Smart might turn out to be a decent NBA point guard, and to give up a 3 in Nerlens Noel, and no, I looked at that and barely took a double take. I thought that was ludicrous.
Right, and I do the same. I think most people did, and I think for the most part, does that, though, start dialogue between Philadelphia and Boston? Do you think there could be something there between those two teams? Because they are teams that have a lot of assets.
Yeah, sure. And look, don't think that Sam Hinkie isn't sitting in his office and talks to every other team in the league numerous times over the last couple of weeks. So that's the position he's put himself in with all these assets that he's accumulated, with all the draft picks that he has, at his beckoning. He has a lot of things that a lot of people could find useful, and he's in a position where if he wants, he could sit back and take all these phone calls, which he told me he does almost every day. He's taking phone calls, and he's also reaching out and making phone calls and seeing what's available. So, due diligence isn't something that anyone can question Sam Hinkie on. I am positive of that. I know the phones are ringing hot. Just exactly which direction he goes in, we're not going to know until probably about 9, 10 o'clock on Thursday night.
Bob, how much stock are you putting into the Porzingis stuff? It's a lot of stuff late in the game here. Is this them trying to get Orlando to move up? Do they legitimately like him at number 3?
I'm sure they like him. I don't know how much is put out there by the Sixers as sort of a smokescreen. It could be the agent for other players. It could be, people on the Lakers leaking it. It could be Orlando leaking it. You just don't know at this point. It's all kind of silly, but it's all part of the game that goes on. I will say that in talking to different executives and scouts and GMs throughout the league, that there is an awful lot of interest in Porzingis, and he certainly did open some eyes when he had a workout in Las Vegas, and his stock definitely is rising. He's measuring out at 7'1" now, and the guy has a legitimate shot. He can step out. I've watched so much film on him. He can step out to 25 feet and looks natural shooting the ball from out there. So, obviously there's some drawbacks. He's thin. He's not that physical. He can get pushed off the block and all, and taken down low defensively. But, boy, 7'1" guy that can shoot the ball, it's kind of the way of the NBA now.
Question with Porzingis then. Do you see him as a fit with Joel Embiid, I guess more on him later, and Nerlens Noel?
Yeah, I mean, that's your drawback. No, probably not. I mean, are you going to start those 3 on the floor? Porzingis does have pretty good feet. He has pretty good lateral movement, but you're talking about him covering a small forward. I don't know about that. I mean, but as somebody pointed out, and as we all very well know, you have a mismatch on one end of the floor, you're going to have a mismatch on the other. And if you have a 7'1" guy that can step out 5 feet, and a 7-footer, 270 pounds, in Embiid who can just post up down low and do what he does there, and then you have Nerlens Noel, just getting junk baskets and running the floor and blocking shots down at the other end. Maybe that's super interesting to some people. It's funny. I've said it so many times, Mike, and I know I've said it to you. I'm a guy that says draft the best player available. You can't worry so much about need, and I firmly believe it. I just think that this might come down to the Sixers get lucky and they get both those things. I think if the 2 big men go, meaning Towns and Okafor, they'll get Russell 3. They get the best player available, and it also fills a need for them.
I know a lot of people don't know a lot about Mudiay, but do you find it odd that his name does not seem to be as attached to the Sixers as some of these other guys? It seems like Russell is almost the guy. Mudiay, some people like better, yet you don't hear his name really attached to the Sixers all that much. I don't know guys that you've talked to like one over the other, but why do you think Mudiay's name is not really in the mix as much?
Yeah, it could be. It could be a direct result of the last point guard that they have, Michael Carter-Williams. You had a guy now. Mudiay is a much better defender, but like Carter-Williams, likes to go to the basket. Is very very good at it, isn't a very good outside shooter, and not at all. And that's something that I think many people say, well, that's the reason they got rid of this guy. And you need shooters on this team. There's probably nothing more the Sixers need, especially if Joel Embiid is going to be healthy, and that's who you're relying on in the middle. You're going to need some outside shooting, and I think people are a little put off by Mudiay's outside shooting. And let's be honest, there's just an unfamiliarity there. I've watched tons and tons and tons of tape on him. I've talked to many, many people who have seen him play, but there still is an unfamiliarity because, he didn't play in the States. He was hurt. He only played 12 games over in China. Although we're told the competition over there is strong and physical and the guys are older, you just really don't know. So I think that's probably why. It may be an ignorant thing on all of our parts.
And he is kind of an unknown, and he only played, 12 games in China there, so he had the injury. But you're right. He did play against some former NBA guys. He knows the professional lifestyle a little bit better already. So he could be a guy who's a little bit more professionally ready to go. So he's an interesting guy. Russell seems like the guy a lot of people like. But at this stage of the game, are the Sixers – first of all, let's go back to the Embiid. What do you think about Embiid? We haven't heard much in the last week. I mean, is that just kind of fizzled out? Because does he and his health hold the keys on Thursday night?
Yeah, I don't know if you change what you're going to pick on his injury or his health. I don't know if you change. Like I said, I think you have to go best available. Whether Embiid is going to be a 10-year pro or if you think he's going to be a 10-game pro, I don't know. But it's human nature that if they ever report that this is going to be lingering, sure, it would have to come into play into your thinking. We're not going to hear anything for a while. I've talked to different people. I've heard different reports that, maybe it's not as bad as everyone seems to think. And my point is, it's not as bad, meaning that he can walk or he can run, whatever. But it is significant in that they thought enough to shut him down. And they talked about, their words in their press release was that the healing isn't happening as fast. And my first thought was, that's kind of crap because it should have already been healed. They told us when it happened that the healing time was 5 to 8 months. We're over 12 months now. It should be fully healed. So when they say it's not healing as fast, that's scary. And you wonder if this is going to be something that's going to linger.
All right, so we all know how much that GM Sam Hinkie likes to gather assets, and with Joel Embiid's health concerns, who knows how that impacts. But Brett Brown has said he is the center of their universe. Then does the team try to push forward and try to win games next season without him? So in other words, are they concerned about getting a player that's ready now as opposed to a guy who may not be as ready but has a higher ceiling?
Yeah, I don't think the winning is right there now. I think they're looking for the guy that's going to help this team in the years to come get where they want them to be, and that is, they meaning Sam Hinkie, Brett Brown, and that is a title contender, an Eastern Conference powerhouse. I don't think that guy, I don't think there's any guy that can come in this year and put them anywhere close to that. I have to believe they want to win games, and one of the reasons is you have to teach these young guys how to win in the NBA. They have to learn what it takes and what they need to do to win in the NBA night in and night out. So I think winning is probably, I don't know, I don't want to put this the wrong way. It's probably more of a desire of Brett Brown because he's right there on the front line, as opposed to maybe Sam Hinkie's a little more patient where he's building down the road.
Yeah, and do you think at some point that comes to a head where some decisions will have to be made? I don't want to go that far. I don't know. I don't want to make it sound like there's a division there. I really don't. But I think we all saw last year at the end of the year when we had Brett Brown before a game and he brought up the rotating gypsies and that kind of thing. Yep.
He's ready to win. He's ready to win some games. He's a human being. He's won 37 games over the past 2 years. That's the guy who in 12 years in San Antonio never won less than 50 a year. So it's hard, and it's something that I think he needs to see a little bit of light. I think the GM needs to give him a little light into the future, and I really think it has to happen. I think they have to win some games. And if they don't, if this becomes another, 18, 20-win season, well, now you're looking at something else. Now you're looking at probably maybe, or I should say, might not be looking to stay here much longer. That's tough. But I don't think that Hinkie wouldn't do it again. I think if he thinks it's better for the future of the organization and ultimately for the goal of where they want to get, I think he would do it.
It's like what was the name of the woman who was the GM in the movie Major League? Like, who do these guys think they are? And they turn off all the they can't get the bass after the game. The airplane's broken. I mean, it almost sounds like that's the way it happened with Michael Carter. This team, how dare they get good? You're traded. And I think the obvious question would be then, when does Sam Hinkie start to feel like I got to turn this thing around, or do you think he just has carte blanche to walk around there and do what he wants for as long as he wants?
Yeah, I asked him that directly last year, Mike, towards the end of the season, the few times he made himself available. I said, this was kind of snotty on me, but I said, what's your contract? Like, how long are you under contract for? And he said, we don't worry about such silly things. We're only concentrating on the plan, on the process of getting this organization to where it wants to be. I think it's legitimate. I think it's a question I've asked it more than anyone. What is the time frame? If people look back on my stories, how many times I've asked, when is the now? When does the future become the now? And I just don't see them being very pushed or having impatience in doing that. They just seem like they're going to do what they think is best. However long that may take, it'll take, and they'll move from there.
Bob Cooney, Philadelphia Daily News, covering the Sixers, the NBA draft Thursday night here on 93. Bob, do you have any insight on this possible collective bargaining agreement thing that's going on with the Sixers?
Yeah, I've made some phone calls about it, and whenever something like this goes, the people that you'll want to talk to, they want to sit down and make sure they have everything in order before they'll answer any questions. It apparently goes back to Andre Kirilenko and how that all played out. I assume there could be some sort of penalty. My question to everyone is, how severe could that penalty be if they did have some kind of violation? I'm kind of ignorant to speak on it right now, Mike, because I don't have all the information from the people that I want to get it from. So I'm hoping to have something in the paper tomorrow once I could, better find out exactly what happened there.
All right, your thoughts on number 2. What do you think? In other words, who do you think will be available at 3? Because the Lakers really, I think Towns we know is going 1.
Yeah.
We don't know a lot about 2, but that creates a big thing. Do you have any indication on what the Lakers might do at 2?
Yeah, I've talked to some people out in L.A., and they're as baffled as anyone. It's kind of the way of the NBA anymore. Also, all the secrecy before the draft, and then I understand that. And I don't know. I'm not usually a chalk guy. I kind of read every situation, as individual as it comes. But I just can't go away from this being 1-2 going Karl Anthony Towns and Jahlil Okafor. I really think they might have something special there if they. You throw Okafor down low. Obviously, Kobe will be playing it last year. I think that they're going to surround Kobe with some talent, try to make a run for him. So I would think that they would take him, but I would not be shocked if Russell went too. And I don't think that leaves the Sixers in a bad position either way.
All right, Bobby, for you, the pick would be if Bob Cooney's the GM.
Yeah, if I'm the GM and Russell's there, I take Russell. If Russell goes to the Lakers, I take whoever I have on my board as being the best. And for me, it's Jahlil Okafor. And if the Sixers have Porzingis as being the third best player, they got to take him. So whoever they have on their board is the best that's available. I firmly believe that that's what they have to go with.
And who do you think they would take at 3? You like Russell. Do you think they agree with you?
I think they like Russell very much. But that's not to say they don't like Porzingis. It's not to say they don't like Mudiay. But I'm more confident saying that they like Russell very much.
All right, Bob Cooney from the Philadelphia Daily News at Bob Cooney 76. The Sixers pick 3rd, maybe. We'll see. The one thing about that trade with the Celtics, I don't think they would include Noel, but if it was just the 3rd pick, would they like Smart and then the 2 picks and use those 2 picks to get themselves back up higher if a guy was falling like Mudiay or maybe a Winslow or a Porzingis? Would that be something that would surprise you then?
No, it wouldn't surprise me only because it is Sam Hinkie who we're talking about. I would be surprised in that I think Smart's going to be an okay NBA point guard. You're not looking for okay here. You know, and like I said a million times, when they scaled this thing down and I said, okay, I see what they're doing, I understand it, but what has to happen is now everything that they've done, all the moves that they make now, they have to be home runs. They have to swing for the fences, and they have to be home runs. Well, they swung for the fences with Embiid. You don't know. That could turn out to be a big swing and a miss. You know, if you're looking to you trade down and you do all these things and go in the future, you traded Michael Carter Williams, that Lakers pick could be a 10, 12, 13, 14 pick. That didn't work out so well. So whatever they do, they have to hit it 100%. And now with this move of Saric not coming over for at least another year, maybe 2 years, maybe not at all, you know, you got to really start hitting home runs, and I think fans want to see home runs now, not 2, 3, 4 years.
All right, we'll see what happens on Thursday night. A lot of intrigue. I think it's amazing. Last year's draft, we were really intrigued. Might be more intrigue in this year's draft than last year's draft, and I think that's pretty hard to say. But the anticipation has really been unbelievable this year. Bob, always a pleasure, man. We'll see you soon.
Mike, anytime. Thanks for having me, buddy.